Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys checking the video out. And guys, today I just sort of wanted to give a little final tribute to Kevin Vandam. I think today was the last day of his career. He announced his retirement early in the year, and today was the final day of the MLF Bass Pro Tour on Saginaw Bay, which he finished second in. He almost won the tournament, which would have been real fitting if he'd squeaked out a win the last tournament. But I just wanted to take a little bit of time here, and this is a big, huge milestone in our sport as far as if you're a historian buff like I am in the sport, and I think it's worthy of a video. Since today was his last day of competition, and I just sort of wanted to talk a little bit about Kevin, about what I've known about him, and fishing around him since he started in the early '90s. And Kevin started, I was early in my career when he started. I think his first year on the circuit was 1992, and I was still, young then myself. I was, 1992, I was only, in my late 20s at the time. So I started in 1986, so he didn't start that much longer than I did. And so I got a chance to fish, around him his entire career on the Bassmaster Top 100s, the Top 150s, Bassmaster Classics, Bassmaster E50 series, FLW Tour. So I've been around him a lot. I never did get to know Kevin very well. It's like when you're the full-time pro, you sort of have a circle of friends, and for whatever reason, I just wasn't around him that much as far as, in that circle of friends. I had my own circle. So even though I was fishing around him a lot, I never did get to know him very well as an angler, other than just, through the tournaments. We were on a couple of the same pro staffs together, and I was at several different pro staff meetings with him, and battled it out with him in a couple tournaments. We fished one tournament, a Bassmaster Top 150 at the Potomac River years ago, and I was leading the tournament going into the last day, and Kevin was in second or third, and we were fishing the same stretch of bank. And that last day of the tournament, we were back and forth fishing the same water, and he won the tournament. He came back and won it, and I finished second. So that was the only, on the water, little competition we had there. But anyway, I just wanted to sort of give a tribute a little bit to here from what I've seen about it. Kevin, not only without a doubt, it's undisputable, is the greatest bass angler of the history of the sport. I don't think anybody can deny that. His statistics are second to none. There are arguably some other people that are right up near the top based upon what your criteria is for that, but statistically it's hard to argue that he was probably the greatest angler of the sport he's ever seen. And another thing about that is the era that he did it in was a super competitive era to be in. I know a lot of the anglers that excelled back in the 70s and early 80s. I'm not taking anything away from them, but the competition simply was not that deep back then as far as the number of competitors. So to have stood out for as many years as he did was a feat that's remarkable, to say the least. And I don't think a lot of people knew how dominant Kevin was for about a decade. There was a period of which during the late 90s and 2000s where he was just like, he was unbeatable. People didn't think he would ever come off the number one spot. I mean, he was so far on the next level that nobody was even close to him. It's hard to even explain unless you were there around him to see that. And what happened to Kevin is the same thing that happens to everybody once they turn 50 years old. Their performances go down. Nobody's immune to it. I mean, Kevin had good events after he was 50. Some people do, but nobody has transcended that magic mark. When you hit 50 years old, your performance just starts going downhill for a variety of reasons. Now, a couple different things about Kevin that I can tell you about him is not only is his performance on the water, where he's gained most of his fame, but he was a tremendous, and still is, a tremendous leader in the industry. In the pro staff meetings I was with him on, this would be where, we'd be at the meetings like with Zebco Quantum, and there'd be the president of the company and, all the higher up executives, pro staff and everything. And Kevin would dominate the meeting. I mean, when he would talk, even the upper echelon presidents and CEOs would listen. He had a a presence, or has a presence within the sport that is just, I've never seen anything like it. A true leader. He really was. It not only on the water but off the water, and it's the sport from that perspective has never really seen anything like that. And I've always sort of like, I've tried to analyze what made him so good over the years, and the only thing from my observation, and I don't know how true it is or how not, but from my perspective, there's two things that come to me why he was so dominant. Number one, I've talked about this in some videos, I just think some people are born with the ability to catch fish that are on the next level. I don't think it's anything you can learn. I think it's an innate, intuitive gift that people have. Just like some people are great artists, some people are great musicians, some people, are great mathematicians. When you talk about art forms like that, you can't learn them. Like, you can't learn how to paint like, Van Gogh, or you can't learn how to compose or play, instruments like, Beethoven did. It's something that you're born with. And I think that ultimately, I think Kevin was just born on the next level. And the second to that, and I don't know this for sure, but it's just sort of been my observation, I don't think Kevin had to deal with the financial distraction that a lot of anglers had to. Now, that's just from my perception on that. And you can't discount how big of a deal that is. Most people, guys, the biggest distraction they have in fishing is the financial distraction. And if you're in a position where you don't have that distraction, I can't even imagine what that's like as far as being able to completely focus on fishing. So I think that he was sort of in a position where he could pursue fishing as an art form because he didn't have that financial distraction, which is tremendous. And so when you have somebody that does not have a financial distraction, and they've got a tremendous amount of just born with talent, and they've got passion and desire and drive, and they've tasted winning, and they know what that feels like, they're just extremely hard to beat. But anyway, the sport was definitely better off with him. I am pretty impressed, and I do respect the fact that he got out of the sport early. I think a lot of people hang on too long in the sport, and I think he got out at a really good time. He was still, I'm not saying he was at the top of his game, but he was still highly competitive. But anyway, that's just a few thoughts I have on Kevin. So let me know what you guys think. We'll talk later.